Hey everyone, how's it going? Alrighty, so welcome to our second Active Minds General Body meeting. We have a lot for you guys today, so I can't wait to go ahead and get started. Um, Give me a second here, I'm gonna just share my screen. We got a PowerPoint for you all. So we got a PowerPoint with just some announcements, and then we have a guest speaker as well today. Alrighty, let me just make sure there's no one waiting to join. Okay. So for those of you who weren't here for our first general body meeting, just a quick rundown of what Active Minds is. You can read through the slide. I'm also going to go over it right here. So our main mission is to kind of be a liaison between the student body, meaning all the students on campus, and the mental health community. And we do this by having campus-wide activities. We host guest speakers like we're going to do today. We provide educational information. Usually we have like brochures and other fact sheets that we hand out during our booths during the semester. Um, and we also have like fundraisers and other events that we do throughout the year. I know this semester is a little bit weird because it's not in person, but we're trying our hardest to have as many virtual events as possible and try to make it as fun as our other semesters. Alrighty. And then let's talk about our membership. Nativa, do you want to take this over? I think you're on mute.
My bad. Hi, everyone. Okay, so membership, if you haven't already signed up to be a member, you can fill out the tiny URL form. There's also a QR code for your convenience. And membership dues are $3. And you can just send that to the UTD Active Minds Venmo and just include your name, the description of what it is. And you can just do that whenever. You can go to the next slide. And here's some reasons why you should be a member. So you get some early bird pricing for events. If we were in person, you'd also get some free supplies. So sometimes we would have like little stress ball things, little cute buttons, things like that that you would have gotten during events. We have discounts on t-shirts. You'll be seeing that in a few slides over. And you can also run for officer positions. So if we see any of you guys active members, having membership dues paid and things of that sort, then you can be considered to be an officer if you choose to run. And all of our donations from your membership dues goes to nonprofit mental health organizations throughout the year. And we understand that, you know, everything because of COVID, and it might be kind of hard to just pay a bunch of membership dues for different clubs. So we've tried to lower them this year, and if there's any issue regarding anything about membership dues and payments, you can just let us know and we'll work something out for you.
Awesome. And I just want to add another thing on there. One of our most popular events last semester was our art painting events. We usually like supply canvases and all the paints and stuff. So if you do pay for your membership dues and we have our art event next semester, you will get all those supplies for free. All right. So you want to take this over?
Finally, the shirts are out. I'm super excited. And you guys can get the shirts too now if you just fill out the form. We'll even have the link sent out. And basically, since we're trying to follow social distancing rules, we are going to directly send the shirts to the address that you guys sent. And also, if you're a member, you get all those benefits that we just mentioned, and you get the discount. So for members it's $12, but even for non-members, you can get it for $15. And also members, they can purchase as many shirts as they want for friends and from family, and you can even send it to their place, like anywhere in the country. So I mean, I think it's a great gift because one, the shirts look super cool. Two, I think it's a good gift that makes a difference. So make sure to fill out the forms.
And just wanted to let you guys know that Soha worked really hard to design these shirts, so make sure you support us and her work by buying these shirts.
All right, so we have an event coming up. Well, I guess it started by now, but it's called Candle in the Dark. And basically, the prompt is, what is your happy place? And so there's a Google form up on our Instagram, and you send any art, photography, poetry, stories, or any other things that describe your happy place, and submit it into the form. And it's just going to be like a little demonstration of all the submissions.
All right, and if you've been following us on Instagram, we have started doing a Instagram TV, like a live series. And our first one was this past week. So one of our officers talked to someone from the UTD Counseling Center for a bit. I think it was like 20 minutes long. And so I think we're doing that like every other week, but we'll send out updates on our Instagram when we do those in the future.
So thank you guys, and the last thing that we have for you is the syllabus project. This project is going to be something we're going to be working on probably throughout the whole year. It's going to be one of the biggest things we've ever done. The goal of this project is that every syllabus on campus that every professor sends out should have a short blurb on there about mental health. Just something short that says if you're feeling overwhelmed with this course or anything else going on, UTD does have on-campus resources for us. Free for all of the students. So we're going to have more details about this within the next couple of weeks, so make sure you stay tuned. We're going to have a petition going out as well, so make sure you sign that and show support. And then lastly, we're going to send this to the student government to show that this is something we're really interested in, and we want to get this done as soon as possible.
So like I mentioned earlier, we send a lot of stuff on our Instagram. So if you want to keep up with updates, definitely follow our Instagram if you can. We post a lot of stuff on there. I think we have also a Facebook, which I don't know if we're as active on that one. And then if you ever want to reach out to us, you can either DM us on Instagram or you can send us an email. Our email is on the PowerPoint. And our link tree is linked in the bio in our Instagram. And there's also a website that we have.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm just going to take a quick break here and show you guys where our Become a Member page is. So if you go onto our website and you go to Join Active Minds, you're going to come to this page, the membership form page. You just have to fill out all of these things and you can become a member, and we'll keep you updated with everything through this. I know some people were also wondering about emails. Emails will be going out starting this week, so stay tuned for that. And lastly, our GroupMe is also pretty active with all of our announcements, and we're going to start having short discussions on there. So just let us know in the sign-in link at the end if you want to be added to the GroupMe.
So, suicide on college campuses. So, obviously, you guys know that the theme of our meeting today is Suicide Prevention Month. We are trying to spread awareness of that So 1 in 5 college students have had thoughts of suicide, with 9% making an attempt and nearly 20% reporting self-injury. And 1 in 4 have been diagnosed with a mental illness, which is a very high ratio if y'all think about it. And it's kind of odd that, a lot of students are still kind of iffy about getting help, even though the rates of depression is pretty high. 44% of college students report having symptoms of depression. And the biggest statistic that I think this slide is trying to highlight is that suicide is the second leading cause of death among college students. So you can look at this graph on the side, but the dark yellow mustard, I'll go with mustard, the mustard part is the percent of college students who seek mental health, and the 25% is the percent that doesn't. And you can see that 25% is still a really high number, and that's why we're here, y'all. Our goal is to bring that number down to 0%. We want everyone to seek help for, their mental illness. Suicide prevention. So these are just some ways that we think you can reach out to people. Now, obviously, the best thing to do, I want to highlight this, is to actually receive mental health from a mental health professional. But these are some things you can do as a student, to just kind of ease the tension, really listen and be there for your friends and try to recognize warning signs. So the first thing is listen. Be a good listener, don't dismiss someone, don't dismiss their thoughts or their actions, and really try to be there for them. Be an active listener. Don't listen to them and be on your phone, right? That's not very respectful. They won't feel comfortable talking to you. It's really important that you give them a safe space and encourage them to talk, which kind of goes into the second point, which is talk, right? If this person is exhibiting symptoms that's very concerning to you, they're, talking about potentially, harming themselves or, saying things that you're very concerned about that's not in character for them, you should definitely see if they should go to a therapist. Encourage them to go get that help. The third bullet point is to stay with the person who says they're considering suicide, right? What does that mean? So don't get, scared or stressed about these thoughts because they happen quite frequently. Try to, be calm, try to be rational, try to make sure you keep checking on this person and, be there with them, be there by their side, and make sure they get the help they need, right? And more often than not, if they have somebody who's with them, they'll go get help. They'll go seek that help because they have a support system. So try your best to be that support system for them. And call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline if you think the symptoms are really bad and you're scared and you're really scared for their life. Obviously, this is an emergency situation, right? So you can either do this or escort them to a mental health facility or an emergency room, right? Obviously, try your best to evaluate the situation, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. So, if they're exhibiting symptoms or they're saying things that is very, very concerning, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Or encourage them to actually go to, the slide says, a mental health professional.
Thank you, Shreya. All right, we're gonna move on to the discussion portion for our general body meeting. And Soha, do you want to take over this part?
Sure. So we've been, asking questions and how you guys practice self-care, and we've shared a few of them on social media. Some of you guys like to paint. I personally like doing that too. Just I sit down and it relaxes me. And another thing that I'd like to do is I like to exercise in the morning. And I don't know if there's any other things that you guys like to do or would like to share with us.
And you guys can either unmute yourself or leave comments in the chat, whichever you guys are more comfortable with. Let's have a quick discussion on what ways you guys practice self-care, especially like now during quarantine, when everything is just not normal, I guess. So what are you guys doing to practice self-care right now?
Hi everyone. One of the things that really helps me is like when I'm feeling like stressed or overwhelmed, I find that taking like 10 minutes to meditate really helps like calm you down. And so usually I'll use like Headspace or YouTube to find meditations.
That's pretty cool. Can you tell us more about Headspace?
Yeah, so Headspace, it's an application for your phone. And basically it's like there's a lot of different topics that they have. There's like some for like sleep, for like stress, for focus, motivation, stuff like that. And it's just really like tailored for you to pick whichever like area you want to meditate on and like focus on. So it's really cool.
Hey, that's a pretty cool resource. I'm pretty sure everyone else here can benefit from this as well. I know I saw someone on the chat said that they blast their Spotify. I know I tend to do that as well, especially if I'm driving anywhere now.
For some reason, I've been listening to a lot of music that I listened to like when I was 13. And yeah, I think that's what I've been doing for the past week, just going in a rabbit hole of music that I listened to when I was 13 and playing that on blast as well. Surprising, I listened to better music as a child than now. I realized that.
Nice. Anyone else want to share what they are doing right now to practice self-care?
I go on like really long drives. Like I go nowhere. I just drive around the city and I just listen to music. I'm actually going on a drive like tomorrow. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of something that really calms me down and like I'm in the moment not really thinking about like my 5 million commitments. So that's helping. That's helping me a lot.
Nice. Dude, I love driving. I think I should try that out. I can drive for hours and like just honestly that's like perfect. Like you don't have to worry about anything else when you're driving. So I think I should try that out.
I've been watching a lot of sitcoms, so I just started watching Schitt's Creek after I did like an Emmy sweep like over the weekend. So I've been watching a lot of TV whenever I have time. But other than that, I usually just like make playlists or blast music.
Are any of y'all artists? Does anybody like do art or coloring for fun? Am I the only one who has a coloring color for fun?
No, I've been like stress drawing. I don't know if you've seen my Instagram, but it's just been like all these pencil drawings because the stress level is so high.
I have. Your Instagram is like so artsy now. Oh, Samiha says I love painting. Yeah, I suck at painting. I try to get into it, but I always mess up my artwork last minute. But yeah, I love coloring. That's something that calms me down. Painting is really fun too.
You know, even though I kind of do my own art and I paint and everything, I've always never liked coloring books. I'm like, I don't need outlines. I can do things on my own. But I think I went to the park with my neighbor and we just like sat on benches or like on the tables and benches and like we just drew on coloring books. And I was like, I think the first time I colored in years because I was like, I don't need this, but it was actually like really fun. So I think I might do more of that as well. I think it's less stressful, I will agree, when you paint, because when you mess up, you're just like, but when you like just do it on a coloring book, it's like, I don't know, it's just satisfying.
Yeah, I can't draw, which is why I have to use a coloring book because I just like, I'm like a child. Like, I need the outline, you know, or the picture doesn't turn out great. But that's just because I'm not like artistic and I just like shading. I really like shading and stuff. But yeah.
Dude, I felt that. I can't draw a straight line from my life.
I'm not an artist at all, so I'm very jealous of you artists. Should try to practice and try to learn, but I barely have the time anymore.
As a kid, I was always a fan of just tracing over stuff. Made me look like I had talent.
How about any sports people here? I know I love to play basketball whenever I'm like stressed out or I need a break from everything. Anyone else here like sports or any other type of like, I don't know, maybe like working out or other type of like physical exercise?
I'm not a sports person, but I do try to go on like daily runs or walks whenever I can.
I think when quarantine first started, I decided that I was gonna try and get into like running, and that one day like we have this little like loop in my neighborhood, and it was like 2 or 3 miles long, and I was planning on like working my way up to running the whole thing, but I like no matter how hard I tried to like running, I just hated it so much that I never finished the loop. Like I quit halfway through every single time. But it was still fun to try, I guess.
That is so valid. Running was so hard. I can half the time when I started, I just give up halfway. But I always have like I have like different playlists that I make for specifically for running and stuff. So once I have that going, I think it makes it a little bit better. Is there anyone else that has self-care ideas or practices that hasn't been mentioned?
I like to put a face mask on like once a week and just like sit there and just like kind of just wait for it to like harden and stuff and just like be in my thoughts and then wash it off.
That's such a nice way to relax. I definitely should be doing that more often.
I do that too. I love face masks. I have 5 of them right now that my friends got me, and I'm so excited for the weekend to like put them on.
I never use like face packs, but I always have like a bunch of sheet packs on at hand, so they're nice whenever I do use them. They're really relaxing.
Sheet masks are like easier than face masks because like face masks are like, you know, like clay, right? So I have both, but sheet masks are so much easier and they feel nicer to me.
Also, I feel like sheet masks are easier like on the skin
Mm-hmm.
versus clay masks and like face masks in general because with those it's like it's a risky business because you never know if it's gonna react well with your skin or not.
That is so true. That's why I like stopped buying like the hardcore ones and I just use sheet masks now. It's just easier.
Someone in the chat said writing self affirmations a couple times a week helps me. That's a really good way to practice self care, and it's also like getting positive energy for yourself. So great way.
Hey, Brian's here as well. Hey, Brian, we're talking about things we do to practice self care. Do you want to jump in on this as well?
Oh, yeah, sure. Um, for me, I would say I do a lot of stuff pertaining to like writing and music. And so, like, separately, like, I do a bunch of writing, like opinionated writing, creative writing on my own time. And I like do a lot of like singing and playing the piano. Granted, not as much piano during quarantine because I don't have one with me. But I think those are the main things I do to kind of, oh, and video games. Those are the three main things I do to kind of like distract myself from everything. And even sometimes, like when I'm really stressed, I always just like have videos playing in the background to kind of help me go along and stuff like that.
Hey, I didn't even know you played the piano. When did you learn that?
Yeah. Too long ago. I don't like. I'm not like. I don't do it as much anymore. It's just a matter of like whenever I feel like it. But yeah, I had like a very musical past, and I mean I still do, but I don't have like any instruments with me in my apartment. So
I know I used to write before as well. I haven't done it in a while though. That's actually it's a really good way to kind of like organize your thoughts. I feel like and kind of just get everything down on paper and kind of sort through everything that's going on. Any other writers in here? Also, I kind of just wanted to let you guys know what's going to go on for like, the rest of this meeting. Our guest speaker is going to be here in just a minute, so look forward to that. She's going to talk about Suicide Prevention Month and things we can do on campus to combat suicide. And then after that, we do have a Pictionary game, and the winner will get a prize. Just for future reference, every one of our meetings will have a small prize for you guys. The last couple of prizes were, I know for our first general body meeting, we had an Amazon gift card that we gave out. And during the summer, we also had a raffle for a self-care movie night kit with a whole bunch of snacks and I think movie. A movie gift card as well. So look forward to gifts at all of our events. And if you guys stay long enough for the Pictionary, hope maybe you guys can win something too. And I see some of you guys are still talking about the ways you practice self-care. Uh, Allison said that she goes on walks every morning. I want to do that. It's on my like bucket list to do that. But I don't know. Like I feel like every morning I get up and like the night before I might be like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna go for a walk tomorrow morning. I'm gonna like get up, feel super energized, but I wake up and I realize I'm not a morning person.
I'm not a morning person either, but I really like going on walks. But I'll always go on walks with my brother at night. Um, and it'll vary between like 8 p.m. to like whenever. I think one time we decided to go out on a walk at like 2 a.m. Um, so I mean, it's really peaceful. It's quiet. There's not that many people, and you can hear a bunch of animals. Like whenever it rains, there's a lot of frogs in my neighborhood. So it's like it's really quiet and nice just to walk around like that. But yeah, if I had a chance for the morning, probably. But I'm also not a morning person.
I'm very jealous of Allison. I am not a morning person. Like I get up at like 8:30 and I struggle. I'm like struggling to get up in the morning. Like waking up at 7 to go for a walk sounds like really relaxing.
Oh, I see someone mentioned TikTok. Yeah, same. TikTok is just TikTok's fun, but it can also be really, really addicting. But yeah, it's good to do during breaks.
Dude, I agree. Like So I've been studying for my dental exam these last couple months, and the only breaks I have are for TikTok. Uh, honestly, like it has like so much content on there, like it can get addicting, but I feel like it's a good break for me as well. Like after studying for like hours at a time, especially even now, like whenever I have like tests. I know last week was test weeks for everyone. Midterms are coming up for some people as well, so uh, I know TikTok is a good study break, at least for me.
Yeah, same. I think it's because the videos can be so short that it makes you feel like not a lot of time is passing by, but you look up and then it's like 10 minutes have already gone by. It's crazy.
TikTok really does consume your life. Like once you get on it, it's just can't stop sometimes.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just real quick here, we're gonna keep this conversation going, but in the meantime, if people want to use the sign-in link to sign in for this meeting, uh, there are some questions on there for becoming a member and buying a T-shirt. The links are on there as well, so make sure you go ahead and sign up for that stuff as well. But in the meantime, let's keep this conversation going as well.
What are y'all doing for fun? I guess a spin-off of the self-care question.
I've been playing like games and stuff like that. Um, Basically, like this game called Among Us has gotten really popular, so I've just been all about that recently. Have any of you guys heard of it?
I've heard about that from like 5 different people that I know.
It's really fun.
They like stay up all night playing it.
Yeah, it's really fun. You can play it on your phone, or you can play it on PC, and it's basically like Mafia. Um, and it's really funny because if you play with random people, because for the most part I just play with random people, they really just start accusing you, and then you just basically watch everything burn. It's just kind of funny.
You know what? Maybe we can have like a Active Minds Among Us like game night or something. I think
Yeah, we
that.
probably could. The only thing is that the maximum people that can be in like the game are like 10.
Hmm.
Maybe we could have it like during a meeting, breakout rooms and such.
Yeah, that could work. It's definitely a way to get people talking for sure. Because you kind of have to communicate, but it'd be really fun.
It is a really fun game. I
Yeah.
hop on like a Discord call with my friends and play it.
Oh my gosh, I bet it gets wild, huh?
Yeah.
I'm yet to play because I still want to learn the rules before I play, but it looks so fun.
Honest, there's like a little thing that kind of teaches you whenever you like get the game, or you could just kind of learn by just like jumping in. It's really funny though. Um, but yeah, it's really cool, but like it's not intimidating at all. Like you get the hang of it pretty quick.
has anyone else done any of like these virtual games for like other clubs or even like just with family and friends?
I played the Scribble game maybe back in March whenever we initially went under quarantine. That's also really fun. I think a lot of games that you can play with people, like online kind of player games, are really fun because like you can just talk to people, and you kind of know that everyone's also just kind of lost at the same time as well. So I think it's really cool. I think there's also like some sort of Cards Against Humanity online. I've never figured out how that works though.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does, but like I played one time online, but I completely forgot what website they use, and then there's an official website, but it's just complicated to use, so I don't even know. But it would be really fun to play online.
Dude, yeah, honest, I think I'm gonna look that one up. I didn't even know that one out there. I'm gonna look that one up for sure. Also, if you guys just give us a couple of minutes, we're waiting on our speaker here. She'll be here in just a few moments. Um, so just bear with us, please. And in the meantime, if you guys have like any questions uh, about active minds in general, or like our topic for this meeting of suicide prevention, you can just either text it on the chat or unmute yourself and ask us as well.
Oh, Game Pigeon, isn't that like the iMessage games? I'm reading off of the chat from what Allison said. I completely forgot about iMessage games. Um, like I remember when everyone would just play pool, or I think they call it 8 ball on their other games. Those are also really fun. They're also really, really short. And you just play, the only thing that's sad about that is you can only play it with people who have an iPhone.
Dude, I just got an iPhone a couple months ago, and I didn't realize how much I was missing out with iMessage games until I got it.
Yeah, and with the recent iOS change, um, there's just even more things. I think you can like at people and like reply to messages like how you do in WhatsApp. Um, but yeah, I think the most like attractive thing about Apple is just the whole concept of iMessage.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, with the new update, I did this like stupid thing where every time I what do you call plug in my phone to charge it, it says it's about time you fed me. So like.
Oh, you changed the sound? I've seen people do that. Oh my gosh. Can we hear it?
Wait, let me try it. I don't even know if it's gonna be like loud enough, but let's try it.
Oh yeah, I heard it. I heard it. Oh, that's fun. Did it take you a long time to do?
Honestly, it's pretty easy. Like all these new automations that they're adding, like they're a lot easier than you think. There's like an app called Shortcuts on there, so
Uh-huh.
it like happens to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen a bunch of people do a bunch of stuff with the widgets, which is also really cool. That reminds me a lot of Android. Um, but there's just a lot of fun little things that you can do to finally personalize your phones now.
Yeah, I'm really jealous of those who've done that. Like, I don't have the energy right now to personalize my phone, but I really do want to personalize it. It looks really cute.
Oh, I see someone mentioned the Uno game that they have on Game Pigeon. That is also super fun. I think you can play up to like 8 people. I used to what's it called? I have like a group chat of friends, and I used to send it in there, and I used to say, "Who wants to get loco?" So we could go and play, and we would all get so mad at each other. Um, and it's just tragic because you can see whenever someone gets like 2 + 4s added on them. Man, it's sad, but it's so much fun.
I'm in a Discord server with my friends, and we're basically just playing Uno. We have like a Uno bot in the server, so we're just playing Uno every now and then. And fun.
Yeah, Discord has a lot of really cool bots. I think we also played one where it like gave us different like historical facts or like other stuff. Um, and we were just trying to identify like what country it's from, and we did that, and that was pretty fun. Also learn how much we don't know, which is also fun. Has anyone gotten better at cooking? I know that was a huge thing in the beginning. Everyone was like baking bread and stuff.
I actually made fried rice for the first time today, and I was like, whoa, it actually turned out pretty decent. Although it wasn't spicy, so I was like, oh, I guess I have to suffer through this. But you know, it's fine. Not live and learn, right?
Yeah, of course. That's literally like the lesson with cooking. You know, like it's after a while it just things kind of become to taste. So you just add a little bit of this, add a splash of that here and there, and just kind of munch away afterwards. Um, baking is really cool. I think baking is kind of hard because I don't even know. You can't taste it when it's like in the oven. You just kind of have to watch. And then when it comes out, it can just be completely different than what you expected. I've always wanted to bake that like Japanese jiggly cheesecake. But that recipe I've seen mess up so many times. I'm just like, I don't think I'm gonna mess that up for now.
I also just like to pull out, just ask me if you guys are new members, so make sure you guys respond to that just so we know who our new members are. Also, our guest speaker is here. I'm going to have Brian introduce her real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and get started with her part of today's meeting.
All right. Hello. So for our guest speaker, we have Abida from MAPS. We've actually worked with MAPS before in the past in some of our events at like meetings for guest speakers and such. And so they're wonderful people to work with. And obviously September is Suicide Prevention Month. And so I feel like it's only applicable if we have a discussion surrounding it. And so with that, I hope you welcome our guest speaker today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abida Minhas. Thank you for having me on. I'm so sorry. I literally got out of my last session and joined this call, so I apologize. It was a kind of a stressful session, so I appreciate you guys being open to having me on still. I thought I might not be able to join the call today, but thank you. It was nice to be accepted.
No, It's always nice to have you on. And like Brian was saying before, MAPS has worked with us a lot before, and we're always lucky to have you guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know I can't see everyone. Obviously, we're doing some unprecedented things, being on a Zoom call. So it's always nice for me to have some interactions, but uh, certainly we can, use a platform a little bit later and have some interactions, or if people have questions, we can certainly do that. But I know a lot of things that I had sent Bryant over a warning list of things that we had worked on as a MAPS group to be able to share with the community, and we've been posting about suicide and suicide prevention throughout this month. So on our Facebook page and as well as our Instagram page, I think we have had a lot of different publications every day about not only suicide, but of course, mental health in general. So I think since we're specifically talking about suicide, um, you know, I guess having worked in this field for almost 11 years, unfortunately, I've seen people go through lots of troubles and being on the verge of self-harm. And unfortunately, I have lost patients to suicide. So it's something that I think I get very, not only passionate, but it always triggers my own grief from as a professional dealing from the other side of been in the helping direction, and then unfortunately not being able to essentially save the person that may have been struggling. So it is something I take very close to heart, because I've personally, as not only as a professional, but personally as well, have dealt with friends and family that have had, that have experienced not only suicidality but lost members, especially professionally. That always, it's something that I think resonates with you as a person. But so when Bryant reached out to me earlier this week, I knew Fridays get kind of tumultuous for me, but I still wanted to join so we can at least dialogue and converse about suicide, because from where all of you are sitting as college students, as young professionals, as young adults, living in this crazy world, I mean, I always get excited to be invited to these panels, because then I get to share my personal experiences and professional experiences. But I also very much believe that you guys are going to be the ones that make monumental changes, because you guys have the hunger and drive and all the great tools in your hands, like social media, to be able to make those profound changes. So one thing that I'll talk about then clinically is what makes people suicidal. What maybe creates that boundary between people being okay and happy, or being in their mental state healthy, to leaning over to the side of unhealthy with suicidality. What I noticed in my professional, especially training and experiences with suicidality, there is not a formula that we have that triggers a person in anything other than, a lot of times there's been trauma and mental health issues for a long period of time. So often it's people who have been depressed for a very long time. So they've been depressed for weeks or months or years, or people that have been anxious for months, weeks, or years, and then the other thing that we notice is that, with people that start having suicidal thoughts, it starts off with in a way that, it's like a ladder. They start off with having a thought that, I don't need to be here. I don't need to be part of this world. I don't need to enjoy the things that other people are enjoying. I can't enjoy the things other people are doing and able to do because of the depression or anxiety or other mental health things that they're experiencing. And then a lot of times we see symptoms that come from those thoughts, so a lot of times they may start telling their therapist or their friends or family, I just feel like I want to not be here. We start seeing self-harming behaviors, like you might see people start cutting or start planning to do self-harm to themselves, or start using medications to dull the pain, because the grief or depression or anxiety often becomes so overwhelming for them. So you might notice people's mood changes or irritability. Although they're having thoughts of suicidality or self-harm, they're also feeling irritable. And, and that aligns with people who are often depressed. You might see them depressed. We see the exterior where they're irritable or angry, but behind that, you see a lot more anxiety or depression or hopelessness. And so those feelings are just coming out externally in different ways. Often, you know, the shame and the stigma with suicidality, that's the other form that people start feeling like internally they feel guilty and shameful for having these thoughts, but ending everything or not having a life is the best tool. You know, the shame will go away, the guilt will go away. And so the tipping point often I tell people is just that mirror of them seeing their hope turn hopeless. You know, there's nothing else that could help me. The best thing is for me to just not be in this world anymore. You know, that the best chance for me to find any happiness is through not being here. And obviously, you know, for people going through trauma and grief, from where I'm sitting, there can be hope, you know, but then there's always that tipping point where unless we intervene or find tools for them or find them therapy or support, that feeling, that thought doesn't go away. I mean, they end up having these thoughts turn into eventually, I say, patterns of behavior. So, you know, you see cutting more, you see depression more, you see anxiety more. And then the one big thing that I often signal to people, and clinically we see it all the time, is oftentimes that person's disposition changes from where you're seeing them as a depressed, happy, unhappy person to all of a sudden they're very happy. They seem like there's a switch, and it could be without an intervention, like they're not starting medication, they're not starting therapy, they've been doing all those things, and then all of a sudden you're seeing they're feeling very hopeful, they're feeling they feel a lot more different to you in terms of like their behaviors, their overall output in the way they're behaving socially. And you know, for a lot of us, we get confused because we start thinking, oh, I think they're getting better. But for the person whose suicidal thoughts are now turning into ideation or plan, you know, in their thoughts, they're thinking, well, now I finally have a plan because now I know what to do. They end up often carrying on with those plans, you know. So for those of you who might be around people, for example, I mean, so those are signals and signs we look at, of course, is the change in behavior that eventually leads to the suicidality. And unfortunately, you know, that sign comes too late. You know, they may behave differently for just a few days before they go ahead and take whatever plan they had in their head to carry it on, you know, and, you know, whatever methods and thoughts they had in their head. And so I often tell people that be cautious and be aware. And unfortunately, living in an unpredictable time and unpredictable mindset and behaviors of people, we can't often predict what people are thinking or doing. But, you know, sometimes when you're very close to somebody, you can pick up some things in their languages or words. Like, again, the big signal is if you see somebody who's been depressed, sad, only talks about depressing and sad things, and all of a sudden is saying, oh, you know, I think that things will get better tomorrow, or things will seem more hopeful tomorrow. I mean, that's a very different change than they were like 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And that sudden elation may be coming from them finally having a plan that they can carry on, and that plan is something they can control. So again, if you're around family or friends, I think I always assess for if you've been struggling, if you've been depressed, if you've been anxious, get help. You know, if your thoughts are that you don't want to be here, get help. I mean, if the intervention, if it's implanted and done the right way, I mean, we can surely save lives for sure. I mean, suicide is preventable. And often people who have attempted suicide and are unsuccessful, statistically, they report back that, you know, they're actually glad that they were able to find help after that, because often when they get help, they finally see, I actually did want to live, you know, the suicide was not the answer. So, you know, that's why whenever we can, as professionals or as clinicians, we do intervene, you know, so we follow steps and protocols. For me, working in the mental health world, I often talk about assessing people when they first come in to see me for suicidality. So I always ask in my intake when I first see people, have you ever had a thought of hurting yourself? Or have you ever had a plan of hurting yourself? Have you ever been actively suicidal? And if somebody has been, assessing them every session or however they continue therapy or sessions, assessing them over and over, like how strong are your ideations? If you've had ideations, what are your plans? If you have a plan, what would it be? How would you carry on the plan? And, you know, patients are not comfortable having those conversations, but if they're close to you, like with a therapist or with a close friend, they will open up. You know, they'll finally feel heard and validated. So they might start opening up, like, if I could, I would do this to myself to carry on my plan of my suicidal thoughts. If I could, I would carry on this certain scenario to not be in this world anymore. So I'd say listening to other people is a gift, you know, giving them that space and to be able to give them some coping skills or support is a gift. So, I mean, if you guys can or hear or are around somebody that you care about and they're saying these things to you that could be self-harmful, I would say, you know, help them and talk to them and get them help from a professional if you could, because you could essentially save their lives. So, you know, I think one thing that I'm going to add, and then we can certainly open up to any questions and things like that you guys may have for me tonight. But, you know, one thing is, don't ignore warning signs when it starts off, like I said, even from the first get-go. So if somebody's depressed and they're not waking up tomorrow saying they're suicidal, get them help for their prevention of their depression before they get to the extreme end of suicidality. You know, if somebody's clinically going through grief or trauma or having a lot of things in their lives that have really been upsetting, yeah, you know, and maybe coming from where I come from, I always tell people when I'm around family or friends, like, if there is something that you want to come to me, I always give you that space to come and talk to me. But, you know, joking about taking your life it could be serious. I mean, so if somebody even jokes about it, just ask them, were you kidding? Like, I know we can laugh about it and joke about it sometimes, but I just want to make sure you're okay. Like, I don't have to worry about you. I mean, that's a better conversation, and it's vulnerable conversation versus having to speak to somebody when they're in the tail end of being very self-harming and very much planning to self-harm and not being in this world anymore. So I say, let's be vulnerable, let's be open, and let's dialogue and communicate, and also listen to each other when we can. So that's some of the things that I wanted to share. If there's anything that I could help answer, I definitely would want to engage with you guys. Bryant, nice to meet you. I know we were chatting on the phone. And so, you know, if there's anything I can help you or any questions you guys may have even privately, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. I think everything you said kind of led me to a question. I guess for us as college students, I mean, we obviously want to like be there for our friends and everything, but when we do notice some of these warning signs, how do we make that first step? Because the topic of suicidality is uncomfortable, like naturally.
Very much.
So how can we go about making that first step to getting them the help that they need without infringing on them in any sort of way?
Yeah, you know, that's a really good question, Brian. I think a lot of times it's learning to understand the person you're talking to. You know, I think it's learning to know that I'm saying this to you because I care about you. You know, obviously, like I said, I mean, we can't predict or mind read or really truly understand how that person may be suffering, but empathizing with them, you know, connecting with them and saying, I'm not saying this to judge you. I'm not saying this to other than I care, and I just want to make sure you're going to be okay. So sometimes it's just seeing your friend who may be depressed, or sometimes they've had a life stressor or trigger, and figuring out, is this something that is causing them a clinical organic issue? Excuse me, does that help answer that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it does.
Pardon me.
I guess I also had a question. So whenever you're helping out your friends, or if you notice a friend might be going through something, is there such thing as pushing like too hard, or um, just, I guess, overwhelming your friend with all of this?
Are you saying like sometimes could it be triggering versus being helpful? Like sometimes could it make the situation worse?
Correct. Yeah, that's one thing too.
Yeah, you know, I think so. You know, I think sometimes you could then question them, excuse me, and probe them about why they may be behaving a certain way, or just say, is everything okay? You know, is there something I can do to help you? Do you need anything from me? And a lot of times if they trust you, I think people do open up to you, you know, if they trust you. And I think one thing I tell people is if you are comfortable with offering help, you know, sometimes you have to say it 2 or 3 times before people trust you that you're being sincere. So I'm not just saying you, but anybody, you know, we're human beings are conditioned by reinforcement. So sometimes we might be hearing it one time and we get it, but we hear it twice, we get it more. If we hear it 3 times, we get it more. So we're all just hardwired to be reinforced. Like, you know, parents are a good example. Like parents can tell you something over and over and it could be positive or negative. But, you know, if it's negative, it'll irritate us because you're like, you've already said that. And if it's positive, we really appreciate it that, oh, my parent really cares about me. And same thing in friendships. When you care about somebody, you know, just letting them know, I'm saying this because I care about you. I say this because I care, but do know you have the space to come and talk to me. Do know I'm here if you ever need me. No judgment, you know, and not having long conversations or lecturing them, but maybe just giving them kind, short, supportive answers.
Yeah, no, no.
I'm sorry, did you, was there something, did that help?
Yeah, no, that did help for sure. Because I know for me, like that's one thing I'm like really worried about, especially if I might think that maybe a friend needs help and maybe like they actually just aren't there yet, or maybe I'm just like overthinking it. But honestly, what you said did make sense, and like that whole part of reinforcement, I agree, is really important because the first couple times they might hear it, they might not like think too much about it, but as they keep hearing it, they might realize these resources are actually there to help them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think positive reinforcements are a big thing. You know, if you positively tell somebody over and over, yes, they might get irritated, but they also get the messaging that this person's consistently giving me support. And if I do feel like they're a good, trusted person, I can talk to them. So for sure. I see somebody had a question on this group chat. Do you guys want me to answer that, Brian? I mean, are you open to me answering the question?
100%, yeah. If other people also have questions, they can easily just put it in the chat.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think somebody from your group, Allison, asked if I've heard a lot of victim blaming or saying that would upset the family, how to steer away from them and provide comfort if those things are said. You know, as a therapist, obviously, I mean, victim shaming or shaming of any kind is a big thing. You know, human beings, a lot of times when we feel worried or anxious, you know, we do a lot of things called projections. We put it on other people, you know. If we don't understand something or if we can't completely understand why something happens. So instead of understanding something, we often try to blame or shame, you know. Oh, you know, this person might have hurt themselves or harmed themselves or committed suicide because they didn't get the support at home, you know, or they committed suicide because they just weren't strong enough to survive the world, right? The shaming that comes to it. And for a family that's already grieving and it's already going through a big loss that's probably changed their whole world forever, it's not helpful to hear those things, you know? So for sure, I mean, you know, I think especially being in the age of social media, we get trolled and get negative comments all the time, but those comments don't help when you've had a loss, you know, a very painful emotional loss. And so a lot of times it doesn't help the shame. And I you know, as a therapist, I'm a big fan of communication. So if somebody is shaming or you recognize that a family is being shamed, be their support, you know, be their cheerleader and let them know, listen, I'm here. I know people will talk about you and say all kinds of hurtful things that they don't understand, but we can get you help or get the family professional help or find some ways for them to cope with what's going through. You know, I mean, as somebody who are in the field, I mean, I would say always try to get professional help for somebody who's gone through a trauma like suicide or loss in the family from suicide. And I hope for Allison that helped answer that question. And Brian, I have to ask, I mean, in you know, I mean, I don't know the exact statistics, but you know, I think UTD does a great job of having a very good social, you know, social gatherings and having social networks like yourselves here to be able to give student support. But do you, in being in the student body from where you guys are functioning on this platform, do you notice that people, and especially students, go through a lot of suicidality, or is this something that I've wondered, you know? I mean, again, we don't have a lot of research, especially in a pandemic. But, you know, unfortunately, we've had suicides even in the communities, even through this pandemic.
Yeah, a part of another part that I kind of worked with is with this our student wellness center on campus, and I kind of work as like a mental health, peer health educator, counseling center liaison for them. And so in the past year, I've looked at like ACHA data from UTD, and in it, it actually talks about how UTD is one of the most prominent complaints about UTD is the amount of like severe depression and anxiety that stems from the students. And so it's definitely something that still exists here, even regardless of like the amount of efforts we make towards having more social gatherings and things of that sort. It's very easy for people to just kind of succumb to like a really dark feeling, especially with the academic pressures of everything. It doesn't make it any easier. And I mean, truth be told, there have been instances of like student suicides in the past. And we don't, obviously, no one can say on why or how those occurred, but we know that they existed and they were from students on our campus. And so even with everything that the university is trying to do to promote more mental health education, there's still like a lot more that needs to be done because there are still people out there that go unnoticed.
Yes. And, you know, and I'm glad that you guys are working on those platforms, Brian. So that's so great that you have a committee that, like, I've certainly also, again, appreciate you guys inviting me on. But you're certainly right. I mean, there are still warning signs that we can look for, like I was talking about a few minutes ago, that, you know, anyone that you're around, or even the student body or platforms that you guys are working on, that, you know, we can't minimize the stress that somebody is going through. Like if somebody is very stressed, I mean, there are ways, especially as clinicians, that we can assess for suicidality, you know? Suicidal people, I mean, their whole life changes. I mean, they become not going from that deep organic depression and anxiety to not sleeping well, not eating well, not functioning well. Like if they were A students and all of a sudden they're flunking all of their grades, that's definitely not a good sign, you know? If they're people that are having lots of success in, like, if they're working part-time, or if they are working full-time during or having internship years, and then all of a sudden they're not showing up to these internships, or dropping out of class, or showing up to class late, and they're like students that have been sitting on the front row and, you know, at 8:30 in the morning, like that's generally a good sign that if somebody shows those kind of like stark differences, I always say, you know, we have to focus on the extremes. So certainly, you know, I'm glad that you guys are doing psychoeducation and putting flyers and other things. Like I think you and I were chatting about it earlier on, that you guys are doing lots of great work with psychoeducation. So you're right, that's the biggest tool we have for prevention is education. Is, you know, making sure you look at warning signs, you look at a pretty overly hopeful person now becoming very hopeless, or the other signal, which is they become completely happy and feel like life is all of a sudden great, you know, which is not a good thing. And I see that there's a couple more. Oh my goodness, this one's a good one. So Sana said, how do you have a certain conversation about mental health with people of the older generation who don't necessarily believe it, or don't believe that mental health is important or as physical? Yeah, that's a really good question, Sana. I think that goes back to, you know, prevention and psychoeducation. I think a lot of times coming from marginalized communities, or coming from communities where mental health is not taken seriously, or it's in some way stigmatized for, you know, for many things, like even having depression, you know, even going to therapists, people will still ask me questions like, you know, coming to therapist, does that make me crazy? I mean, can you read my thoughts and tell me if I'm actually a psycho? I mean, yes, you know, generational gaps definitely exist, and definitely not having the mindset or the education behind it. They assume that, you know, going to a therapist or having a bout of anxiety or depression means that they're somehow crazy. But in all honesty, I mean, that's part of the human experience. You know, human beings, if you live long enough, you go through depression, you go through anxiety, you go through stressors, you go through all kinds of things that make your life at times ups and downs, but it's how we manage those things from a therapeutic point of view that can actually give you a lot of good functionality in life. So, you know, getting help doesn't mean that, you know, you're crazy. So I think that's the one label we have to try to eliminate is mental health doesn't mean crazy. Yes, having a clinical disorder for a long period of time, like anxiety or depression, can be very dysfunctional. But again, that label of crazy, I mean, I would even eliminate that. I mean, it just means that people either have a disordered mind versus a healthy mind that they can incorporate. And organically, yes, we do have people with mental illnesses, you know, like schizophrenia, like bipolar, you know, like schizoaffective disorder, but they're not crazy. Their brain organically is going through something because of however their brain is made up genetically and environmentally has these diseases. So it's, to me, mental health, when we have dialogues, the best example I give people is if you have diabetes or a broken hand, you're not gonna, you know, try to fix it yourself. You know, we're not physicians. If you are a physician, you probably could, but even then it'd be unethical to try to heal your own broken hand. But you need help. I mean, as human beings, getting help doesn't mean that we're broken. It just means that we need help to get better. So if you hear some of people, especially in the older generation, having conversations like, you know, going to a therapist or getting help is a bad thing. I mean, you know, I say, like I was saying earlier too, Brian, is I think you guys are going to be the ones that are going to have great conversations. I mean, certainly from where I'm sitting and coming from a, you know, background from the South Asian community, when I decided to be a therapist, you know, essentially my parents didn't talk to me for 2 weeks because, you know, I was going to be crazy, just like the people I wanted to work with. And, you know, now that I get to be in a different position where I'm a supervisor and I've been doing this work for like 10 plus years and doing great things like talking on this platform today. And now that, you know, my parents are the ones that are cheerleading for me and telling me how wonderful things are. And, you know, so things do change and can, but I'm not saying they always do. But, you know, if you're passionate about something and you're dedicated, you know, keep that conversation going, you know, and help people rebuild their mindset or their, you know, what we call in clinically schemas, you know, their mindsets about what they think the worldview is. And it may not always be right. You know, I mean, we're changing systems, and systems sometimes, unfortunately, can take some time to change. And that's very true of mental health systems. You know, people just assume being a mental health provider or having a mental health issue means you're crazy. There's something wrong with you. And
I guess
Allison just made a comment that stress is something that you put on yourself, so just don't stress yourself out and you'll feel better. That her grandma says stuff like that. I think that if I had an on-off switch button, you guys, on how to like treat people's mental health, I think I'd be a really rich therapist. So that would be really cool if I had an on-off switch to turn people's stress off. Maybe I should start promoting that on my business cards. Can't turn your stress off and on. That'd be great.
that made me wonder, I guess, because I know you've done a lot of work in like marginalized populations and you've seen a lot of clients in marginalized populations. And so I was wondering, have you seen like a heightened sense of like normalization and some of the traumas, fears, worries that they've had? And when you notice that like what they've went through are negative experiences, they don't realize it as such. Have you seen that?
Yes, that's a really good question, Brian. Yes, I think, you know, once we validate somebody's worldview or there's, you know, again, that schema, that mindset, and you help people label something they haven't been able to label, it is so empowering, you know? So when you tell somebody, I think what you went through was traumatic and actually not a mentally health experience that was, you know, healthy or normal or however they worded, they realize that, oh, I did go through something really very tumultuous and very, you know, mentally upsetting. And so I think we can help people empower, like you went through something very traumatic, but you survived it. which means, you know, you are a survivor, you are a warrior. You know, I use that word a lot in my therapy sessions. Like if somebody's gone through a trauma and they've survived it, I mean, essentially that is you having a battle with your mind and body and surviving it, you know, and surviving it and coming on the other side of it. Whether it's depression or anxiety or getting a handle on your depression or anxiety or managing your stress, and you've been able to find coping tools and with the professional or on your own or with a friend or anybody that you can connect with through social media, whatever platform, that, you know, it does make you a warrior and a survivor. I mean, that's a positive thing. So yes, normalizing people's experiences can definitely be very, very empowering. You know, it gives you a sense of relief that, you know, all these things that I thought were negative or bad or terrible about me are not true. They're actually not factual things. You know, what we call distortions. They're not facts. They're just our thinking that have been distorted. Does that help answer that?
Yeah, that did. Yeah.
Yes. And, you know, and I hope, and it sounds like with the work that you guys are doing on this platform, that we keep educating the marginalized communities together on this. You know, I'm always happy to help, and that's why I really was excited to join this call. But we keep educating people to understand that mental health doesn't make us broken. You know, mental health doesn't mean that we have some problem. It just means that it's fixable and we can get fixed. Just like diabetes, just like, you know, a broken hand or a broken arm, we can also get relief from figuring out our thoughts and ideas and how we can find better coping skills. One thing I'm gonna add, you guys, and I don't know how long we have together tonight, but, you know, one thing I will share, which is that I think that one conversation, especially since we're talking about mental health, and especially suicidality, one conversation that's also important, that when people are talking about having suicidality, that we don't shame them also, you know, that's wrong, that you're thinking that, you know, a lot of times empathizing with them and saying, I understand, you know, I mean, stress can create those unhealthy thoughts to really get really, really revved up in our brains. And if they continue, again, that pattern, that reinforcement, if it continues, it will turn into a pattern of thoughts that turn into behavior, that turn into a plan, that unfortunately turns into somebody ending their life. So, you know, if we go through that step-by-step process, and when you start normalizing, listen, it's normal to think of these things, and on your word, using the word that, you know, the experiences you're describing, Brian, like normalizing for them, that yes, it is something that you can do when you're stressed. I mean, it is something that people do when they're stressed. They think about life, what it would be like for me not to live here. But if you're doing it so often that it's become a part of your mindset or your thoughts, that's unhealthy, which means the only thing you're thinking about is hurting yourself and not finding another plan to find some positivity in your life. Not finding hope, you know, that hopelessness, that ending your life, not being here anymore is the only thing that you think about. That's when it can become dysfunctional or debilitating. You know, that's when it could become very harmful, to where that person can't get out of that loop, you know, that mind loop where they're finally they're thinking about it constantly. So that is something that I want to stress tonight. And one other thing I'm going to just say, that, you know, if we need to carry on these dialogues outside of when it's not suicidal, you know, suicide prevention month, out of September, you know, let's talk about it all year round, you know, because unfortunately people lose their lives and they have triggers and stressors all year round, you know. So this month, I'm so glad that we've dedicated it, and we can use this opportunity and this month to be able to gather tools so we can use it for the rest of the month, for the rest of the year, and rest of the weeks coming up. So that way we know what warning signs are there, and if there's another month that's outside of the suicide prevention month, that we know what tools we have to carry on, you know, not only for good mental health, but also for people who may be struggling in ways that have really taken them off to the edge of hopelessness. So I think, is there anything else? I don't see any more questions on the board here tonight. Is there anybody else that'd like to talk or share, or any experiences that they've had? I know, Brian, you and I talked about it. I was happy if somebody wants to connect with me, if, I want to also lastly share the space to say, I have my own office, I have my own practice, but if anybody ever knows or wants or just wants to consult with me or talk to me because they've been on the side of darkness and hopelessness, I'm always happy to have that dialogue and talk and connect with them at no charge, especially during this month. I have professionals and my colleagues and coworkers that I work with, and I've told them the same thing, that if anybody calls and they're in a state of hopelessness, we make sure that we're there to help them in any way we can, whether it's giving them tools, resources, even if we can't help them immediately, giving them links for crisis hotlines. And I'd be happy to share that with you as well, Bryant, if you want to share that, and for people to have prevention and have somebody to talk to. But I'm always happy to do that, especially in this community, to be able to offer that to anybody or any of your listeners on this platform tonight that want to be able to ever talk to me or connect with me directly. You can feel free to share my email with them for sure.
Thank you so much. Definitely will.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any other questions? Any other things that we can share tonight?
Let's see. I'm not seeing anything in the chat anymore.
I'm going to say, I know this has been a lonely time. So if there's some things that you guys are struggling with, or if there have been thoughts that any of you have been hopeless, I mean, this is a very unprecedented time for all of us, not just in the US, but for humanity. And so certainly, the triggers and the stigmas and everything else has gone up. I can tell you with this pandemic, mental health is just rampant. I mean, people are struggling. It's unprecedented. We've never seen things like this before. So we've never been socially isolated like this. So if you know somebody or yourself, if you're struggling anyway, whether it's with depression, anxiety, any mental health issue at all, suicidality, or just thoughts, feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out. There's no shame, other than you can hopefully find a voice and a platform to be able to connect with somebody that can help you. It's a fight. I mean, it's a fight that we can all be in together. So for sure, I'm happy to be invited to share those thoughts tonight.
Thank you so much. I guess that's all the questions we have today. I appreciate you so much for taking your time out to talk to us.
Absolutely. I'm absolutely happy to be. I'll log off then shortly, and you guys feel free to reach out if anybody needs. And if they have questions even after this call, Brian, feel free to share and share with me, and we'll stay in touch. And I'm happy to come back with myself or my co-founders at any point to help you guys out. I think you guys are doing great work. I'm proud to be part of the work that I get invited to see you guys in the amazing work that I'm sure you guys are doing. So, know that that's probably not going to be short for anything. I mean, you guys are probably doing very powerful work. So thank you. Thank you for letting me be part of it. And this has been great. And hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll get to connect and see each other face to face.
Face to face.
Before, but
hopefully.
I'm happy to do it this way too, to make sure that everybody else stays safe as well.
Thank you. We hope so too. We hope so too.
Absolutely. You guys all take care. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Bye.
Alrighty. As Abda said, that if you guys have any more questions, we can give you her contact and other resources that she passes along. So just feel free to reach out to us if you guys have any questions about any of her speech. Alright. I know it is getting late, but we do have a Pictionary game for you, and there is a prize at the end of it for the winner. So if you guys stick around, this is the last thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and get that game started. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. Just give me 1 second here.